All right. Hello, everyone. I want to just say that I'm feeling rather glad right now that I don't have slides because that is the exact kind of thing that I would do, and I don't even have good animation. So you'll just have to pay attention to faces. But I'm really excited to be here. I'm so glad to see all of you. If you weren't here before, when I introduced myself a little bit, my name is Amanda Stockwell. I've been in UX research and strategy for about 13 years, almost 14. And I really mostly do research and strategy. And I'm super excited to talk about failure because I don't think that it's something that we do enough, especially as sort of senior practitioners. And I think that everybody has these things that don't go so well. And it's really helpful to talk about it and hear about it. So with that, I'll dive into my story. So part of what you should know about me is that I'm currently a consultant. So I help other organizations with UX research and strategy work and helping their teams get up to speed. So conducting user research is a huge part of my job. It's kind of my bread and butter. I work with all kinds of different customers and organizations. I do B2B and B2C. And sometimes I'm lucky and the groups already have existing user bases, or I can help them kind of build up a way to talk to them with existing social media and reach out channels like email. But sometimes my clients, it's their first time ever doing research, or they have no idea who their user base even is, or like who they should be talking to, let alone how to reach them. So recruiting participants is a big part of my job, typically. And recruiting is one of those things in research that I think often gets a little bit overlooked. A lot of times people don't quite know where to go, or they don't know exactly how to get to the people that they want. So, and to be fair, I don't ever like to, throw shade, if it were, but there have been some, sort of popular talks and popular people who were really smart who said things to the effect of, just recruit loosely and grade on a curve. Try to make sure that everybody can use what you're building. And while it's true that fundamentally nearly anyone who's technically literate should be able to build what you put out for the public, you are going to miss really important context if you don't have the right people in your study. So I'm going to give you an example of a study that I ran where we even thought that we were doing pretty careful screening, and we ended what should have been a really straightforward usability test with almost no idea which way we should go because we hadn't included the right people. So at the time I was working with a development agency, and they build out custom software for government agencies. So for instance, they have countries all over the world, but also in the United States, different states have different laws, and even different counties and municipalities within states have different laws for things like how they charge and collect taxes, that kind of thing. So I was working with this company who has the baseline software that they customize for each different municipality, which means it's extremely complicated because every custom implementation they have to do has to take into consideration county, city, state, and country taxes kind of all wrapped up. So it's a pretty complicated piece of software. It's a pretty complicated implementation. And if you live in the States, or if you know anything about the tax system in the States, it's really difficult to get correct. There's a lot of complicated things, and it changes all the time. So it's pretty complicated. So I'd worked with this client a bunch of different times on a bunch of different implementations. And in this particular time, we were working on the system that let businesses file and pay their business taxes online. And so we specifically wanted to look at, because business taxes in particular are so complicated, there are often third-party professionals that businesses will hire to file their taxes for them, so that they don't get it wrong and end up accidentally having to pay a big fine or that kind of thing. So we were specifically looking for third-party entities to file and pay taxes for business users in this one particular city, in this one particular state. I was in Atlanta, actually. I think one of the people we talked to before was from Atlanta. So we were in Atlanta. And So we worked with a client, we built out this big long screener. We used an outside agency to conduct recruiting because we knew that it would probably be pretty difficult to find third-party tax filers. And we were feeling, though, really pretty confident. We had found everybody on the screener, everybody had passed. And, you know, at least from the recruiting side of things, we knew the software was pretty complicated, but we felt like we had the right people in. And so we set up the test. My colleague and I flew in. It was in the good old days when it was pre-COVID and we could go to a hotel and we had a facility space set up, an observation room and all the kind of stuff. Everything's going well. We're like 4 sessions in and we haven't had any no-shows, so we're feeling pretty good about things. And we doing fine. That indeed everybody is either a tax accountant or in a related role where they prepare and file taxes. But after about that 3rd, 4th participant, we realized that there was this one form that nobody could find. And we really weren't sure why, because it didn't appear to us to be that any more complicated than anything else that we were looking for. And so we took a break at lunch and we did some digging. And we finally realized it was because there was this one form that is only relevant if someone was filing for taxes on behalf of an entertainment or media company that had out-of-state workers, which is all a really long-winded way of saying there's a lot of movies that get filmed in Atlanta. There are a lot of movies and TV shows, and there's a specific tax form for entertainment groups who work on, you know, like movies and films and stuff for people coming in from out of state, AKA Hollywood. So we had recruited all of these people from Atlanta area to participate, and we realized that all of the people we actually needed to talk to probably were in Hollywood. And we were like, dang it, we're like 1/3 of the way through the study already. What do we do? And the thing is that none of the rest of the people that we had talked to even knew what the form was. And so we were at sort of an impasse with the results of the usability study, because was the form mislabeled or was it really that hard to find? Was the information architecture the problem? Or did people just not know where it was because they didn't actually use it and they didn't need to, and it didn't actually really matter that they couldn't find it? And so we could make some pretty good inferences based on the results of the rest of it. But since we didn't have anyone who actually used that form in real life, we couldn't be sure. And we had already, by the way, like, you know, we were most of the way through the study. And so ultimately, what we ended up doing is following through with the study as it was and removing that task and then running another separate remote study with the people that we needed to. And it was really difficult to find those exact specific people, but at least we knew what we were looking for. We had basically a 1-question screener, which was like, which of these things is part of your job? And if they did not select filing and paying taxes for out-of-state businesses in Georgia, then we did not include them. But I bring all of that up to say that, like, recruiting in UX, again, is one of those things that a lot of people sort of skim over. And again, I'm not here to pick apart anybody else's thoughts, but I have really found that the quality of the participants in your study are much more important overall than the number of participants you end up including, especially when we're talking about the qualitative exploratory research. And yes, again, theoretically, if you're going to be, say, if you work at Amazon, it might really be okay that you pull kind of anybody off the street to see if they could figure out something that you're going to use. But you're still going to miss a lot of context about who you're looking for. And one thing I always really like to remind someone is that before you can decide how difficult it is to find somebody, you at least need to decide who you're looking for and who you're not looking for, right? Like, think about who you need to screen out. Think about whose opinion you don't necessarily want to include, depending on the study that you're running and the context of the research. So, you know, kind of make sure. And again, this was a very particular example, and I hope you don't go on the other end either. Before I was giving a version of this talk a long time ago, I put out the bat signal to fellow UX researchers to tell me horror stories about recruiting. Someone's ex-spouse showed up one time. I think that was the winner for the worst possible context. I don't know if there's any way that you could remain calm if that was the situation. Yeah, I think that was the winner. I did once have a man who smelled strongly of alcohol tried to take me out to lunch in the middle of the session. That was weird. You're always going to get some like weird stuff in the middle of sessions. Whenever you're dealing with people, there's going to be nuance. There's going to be extremes that you can't control. But as best you can, really having deep conversations, whether you're an external consultant like me talking to your clients or an internal person, really talking to your teams about who you're looking for, who you're not looking for, what's the most appropriate way to find them, what's the most appropriate way to incentivize them. I really recommend that you follow. I'll leave you with a quote from Dana Chisnell, who is awesome, and you should check her out if you're not already familiar with her. But she's kind of famous for saying, research lives or dies by the quality of the participants in a given study. And so I'll leave you with the idea to spend a little more time on recruiting, spend a little more time on being really clear about who you need and what they're looking for, and pay attention to the context that people are working in, because otherwise, hopefully your ex-spouse never shows up, but I also hope that you never have to plan a whole other extra set of research to answer a question that you thought you had covered by planning well. So thank you all so much. And actually, that's just a quick note. We'll be covering way more about research stuff in my class, so feel free to ask me questions. But we'll dig way deep into a lot of that stuff in the class in May. So I hope to see you then too. Thanks all.
Okay, thank you, Amanda. Wow. I'll take one question if there is any question or anything anyone wants to say out loud, because we want to move forward. Don't be shy.
I have a question.
Yes, I have one, Avi.
Okay, go for it.
Because I'm suffering from a huge FOMO, at the end of the lecture, I would like you to keep the thread like open, even if everybody will get out, so I could follow everybody in LinkedIn. Just my FOMO, all right?
Okay.
That's it.
Okay. Anyone has a question for Amanda?
I have a question.
Okay. Yes.
I guess it's probably nothing really specific, but maybe if you could maybe sum something up. What is the best question to weed out the people you don't want to participate in your study?
Okay, so I'm going to give you an answer that I give all the time, which is it depends. It depends what you're looking for and who you don't want in your study. So yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have a good answer. It depends, because you can't know. But if you're just trying to weed out, like, say if you're using one of the like online panels that has maybe questionable people in it, I often ask open-ended, really simple questions just to see if they can write. And it's a little bit of a quality check just to say, like, tell me about the breakfast you had this morning. And if they don't write complete sentences, or if they can't follow the directions, or if you can tell that it's a bot because they write like 1 2 1 2 1 2 or whatever, that's a good like quality check. But there's not, I don't have one specific answer to screen people out, because it really depends who you're looking for and who you're not looking for.
Okay. Thank you, Amanda. I'm sorry we can't take any more questions because we have 4 more.
You can ask me later.
Okay. So Robert, are you ready?
Yeah, absolutely. I reinstalled Zoom, updated everything, and I just guess we can give it a second try.
Let's do it.
Let's do it right now. Okay, I try with the same method, but